Welcome to Arts and Culture Stories with Khushboo Bagga. And today with us, we have a very dear friend, Abhay Mangaldas. And we are sitting at his award-winning space, which recently won an award in China for its computational architecture. Welcome, Abhay. Abhay needs no introduction, but this is for our viewers. Abhay Mangaldas is a visionary cultural entrepreneur and a passionate advocate for the arts. With a dynamic background spanning hospitality, arts management, and philanthropy, Abhay brings a unique blend of creativity and business acumen to all his endeavors. He is a driving force behind various cultural initiatives, including the House of MG, an urban heritage hotel in Ahmedabad. His other initiatives include managing the Shreyas Foundation, a holistic education institution, ex-convener and current advisor for the Ahmedabad chapter, Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage in TAC and more. Today we'll delve into Abhay's inspiring journey and his commitment to enriching lives through the power of art and culture. But before we move ahead, I would like to thank our supporting partners, Petal Foundation, Chaulaz Heritage Jewellery, and this episode is proudly presented to you by Olixir Oils, bringing the essence of purest cold-pressed oils where every seed is pressed with love. So Abhay, you have an educational background in computer graphics and mass communication, and you belong to one of the most prominent families known for its contribution towards Ahmedabad's cultural heritage. How did all of this shape you in your earlier years, and what has your journey been since then?
Thank you, Khushboo, for having me here. As regard to my journey, it was an interesting one because though I do come from a known family, the fact was that by the time I became an adult and came back from abroad after completing my studies, there was very little business left. And this was always a driving force that people recognized you for your ancestors and not for your present. And that driving force even brought about certain sense of insecurities as a person, because it was like water everywhere but not a drop to drink, you know. So this was really the ignition of all my endeavors, and I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So my journey started with several unsuccessful financially but very successful experientially ventures, including the art that you see in this gallery, which was one of my earlier ventures of trying to get artists work on computers. Okay. They never worked on a computer before, all these top artists of India. Anyway, so the journey went from there till, for the first about almost 10-12 years, there was all these attempts to start up something because there was no real business left worth talking about. And then in 1995, because of interesting turn of events, which I played a big role in, there was a situation where we had some liquidity.
Okay.
And the question arose about how to use this. And in that, we decided that we should separate all our family assets amongst all the huge family that we are. And that we did. And that allowed me to choose something to focus on, and which was that we purchased the House of MG from the family members. Okay. So it was a family building. Okay. And that's when I started restoring it, and it was an organic journey, and one thing led to another, and it is now a heritage hotel.
It is what it is,
yes.
Yeah. So Abhay, can you talk to us about how House of MG was conceived, the challenges that you faced when you started it, and also your reflections?
It was a very organic journey. In fact, because when my family, as in my immediate family, purchased this space, it was entirely tenanted. So the only space that was available to do anything was the parking lot and the terrace.
Oh.
The whole building was tenanted. But it was a very nice location. So that real prime factor of wanting to go for that asset was it had an amazing location, and the building was in a completely dilapidated state, and nobody wanted to go to that side of the city. But it was just one of those gut feelings, and my father, who's an architect, who said, It's such a beautiful building. There are so many memories in it. Why don't you do something with it?
Also just opposite to Siddhi Sayyad.
That too.
Yeah.
But the Siddhi Sayad is an island. So that itself is an issue which we are trying to get to change so that it becomes
Okay.
more accessible.
Okay.
But it was certainly immediately on the other side of the bridge, and the riverfront had been announced. It was not taken shape, but it had been announced. So I thought that maybe down the years it will happen. And since only the terrace was available and the parking lot, only thing that we could do was something on the terrace or something on the parking lot. And earlier my initial idea was to maybe do some kind of a family entertainment center. And on the terrace by building some kind of a marquee tent and doing activity inside and something like that. But one thing led to another, and because I live in an old house built around the same time, and I have a lot of meals on the terrace with my family. So I thought, this is such a beautiful terrace. I have the terrace, let's do something here. That's how it started.
Okay.
So we started with one restaurant in the parking lot. We cleared the parking lot and made the greenhouse restaurant over there. And then slowly, we started getting possession of the rest of the building from the government. Primarily, it was the government, because they saw that something nice was happening.
Okay.
And over the years, as we got the possession, we would add something in that space. So, the House of MG has two sides. There's MG wing and the CG wing. The MG wing is what I'm talking about.
Right.
And in that MG wing, there were many government tenants and there were some private ones. And I think over the period of about 12 or 13 or 14 years, we managed to clear all of them.
Wow.
And put in a swimming pool or put in some hotel rooms or put in a conference space. And by then it was clear that it was going to be a hotel, because internationally the only model for heritage preservation is tourism. There hasn't been really another model which works except doing a museum. What else would you do?
Yeah.
So we decided that it should become a hotel, and it happened organically.
Yeah. So luck also favored you in a way. I think it was destined that you could take out the tenants from the place and you could.
No, I think, of course, there is a huge element of luck, but there is also a huge element of perseverance.
Lovely. So Abhay, you've been involved in various other cultural initiatives, including art galleries, festivals and community outreach programs. What motivates you to support and promote arts, and how do you see them impacting society?
I don't think I actively try and promote or actively try and do any kind of contribution. It appears like that, it happens to be like that. My role is that I'm kind of a custodian. I happen to have custody of amazing spaces, and my strength is in keeping these spaces alive and well maintained.
Yes.
This is my strength, and even having some vision about what to do with them. So architecturally, design wise, these are my strengths. Now actively doing something in that space is not my strength.
But it happens.
Yes, so if you create a space and then you put it to the right people, and then they find that always you build something and it works, so space comes first. But of course it has to be well thought out and planned, and mostly it works out over time. So that's how it has been all along. House of MG is a beautiful space, Baki is a great space, Shreyas Foundation has amazing theatres. So there is always this space thing, because in Ahmedabad or in any place, space is a big issue, and a
True.
well-designed space is very rare. So I think that's the key.
But no, I think you have a Midas touch. Whatever you're touching turns out to be beautiful, spectacular.
Midas is when it makes a lot of money. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I would, without being bashful, agree that they are nice spaces, because there is a certain simplicity and sensitivity. And there is an idea of sustainability more than making money out of them.
Okay.
Sustenance is different from profit motive alone. I mean, again, I'm not trying to say I'm some big philanthropist, but just the way we've been brought up, the school I went to, etc., the motive is trying to always get the best,
bigger picture and
do the best you can, and not compromise on quality for the sake of money, So there are no shortcuts. We just don't take shortcuts in anything we do, regardless. And I think because it is rare, people appreciate. And then it stands the test of time, because you continuously do it. Now our ventures have been very old. Shreyas is 75 years old. House of MG is 25 years old. This is 25th year. And now Baki is, now it will be 3 years old. So I know that Baki will take some time, but that's how it is. I think if you have patience and if you persevere it and if you stick to your core values of quality and consistency and transparency, clean, everything is kind of clean in how we operate, then there is no reason why you
Eventually
can't.
it works out.
There is no reason why it wouldn't work, you know.
Yeah. So now that you're talking about Baki, I think it's very close to your heart. Tell us something about Baki, how it started, when you conceived it, especially the architecture of it, and today now where it stands. What do you think about it? Are you contented that whatever you've done is what you wanted to do, or you want to bring
No,
something
I'm never
more?
content. I'm never content. But it's always a journey. So when I love building and I have just restored properties made by other people.
Okay.
Not necessarily other people as in some family member or the other, but not necessarily the way I would have done that property.
Okay.
Because it is already there.
Yeah.
So I just bring in the story or the experience. I wanted to create a building where it started from scratch. And for that also there was a very strong idea. It was more the idea rather than the design. The design is an outcome of the idea. The idea was the philosophy of building. Building industry, as most people know but have not thought of as such, is the only industry where the entire site becomes a factory.
Okay.
The factory goes to the site. The site is not, it's not made in the factory. Normally in an industrial age, products are made in a factory and then taken to site.
True.
This is the only place, it's so messy, it's so unorganized, there is no quality control. In India, the way we build with brick and mortar. You know, you take cement and concrete and all the material to site, and you depend on the workers over there and the condition of the weather, and everything affects the quality of the building. So I decided that I want to make a building, and I love technology, using technology in a manner where it would leave no footprint, or it would be a very light footprint. Ratio of the occupant to the weight of the material used by the occupant is crazy. So I just wanted to build something which could be become part of the recycle economy. It could be reused. So Baki, coming back to Baki, I wanted to build a gallery for this collection of art, which has become very important by then because it was the only artworks done by artists, all the well-known masters on a computer.
Okay.
So I said, let me design a building which is also designed on a computer to house the art which is done on the computer.
Right.
So
a very techno.
High use of technology and with the principles that I just spoke about. So I found a very interesting architect called Jewellery and two architects whose philosophies were very inspiring and were aligned to the ideas that I had was Buckminster Fuller and Fry Otto. So Buckminster Fuller designed the geodesic dome, and geodesic dome is a cellular architecture where there is no skeleton. Normally a building has a skeleton and a skin.
Okay.
So here the skeleton is not there, but the skin itself is a structural element. So it's called an exoskeleton. To give an example, in real life there are the crab. The crab has no skeleton. So the shell itself is so strong that it acts as a skeleton. This is done through geometry. So this is a geometry of triangulation. This is not a Baki dome, but inspired by it. Baki dome is a geodesic, which is a triangular cell, and that triangular cell is so strong when it becomes a triangle that it works on the gravitational force of the earth and physics, whereby by pulling it down it strengthens because it tightens together in all the cells. And there was a geodesic dome in Ahmedabad, the Calico dome. So Buckminster Fuller had helped my grand uncle make it. And there was a geodesic dome in our garden, which was an aviary done by my dad. Okay. So I had grown up looking at this. And textile architecture of Fry Otto is again something that I want to go towards because it just uses textiles. You can just fold it up and cables.
Like a tent.
Yes, so the Berlin Stadium.
Canopy.
It is like a tensile structure.
Okay.
And tensile is also inspired by from nature, like the spider's web. The spider's web is very efficient. You know, it remains in the air and it takes all the tension of the wind, but it remains. So the way the web is, the wiring of the structure is.
Okay.
And then if you put a fabric on it, it remains alive almost with the elements, but it's very strong. Goal is to use minimal material and something which is part of the recycled economy. It can be reused. So Buckminster Fuller idea inspired Jwalant, who is a parametric architect. Parametric is also another kind of a mathematical way of computation, which allows you on the computer to create different types of triangles, which this is, and which can be load bearing. So all of Zaha Hadid, if you heard of the
Yes,
architect,
of course.
her architecture is all parametric.
Okay.
And this guy worked with her.
Okay.
So he is one of the few parametric architects, and he came up with the idea, and I liked it, and that's how we did it. Actually, he had never done a full parametric like this, and when we put it up, we were not sure if it would stand. So when we took away the scaffolding, we thought, I hope it doesn't collapse, or whether it will withstand storms. But we had done some tests on the computer, but now it's been there for 2 years and 10 months, and it's okay. So that's how Baki came about. And again, look at the use of space. In an art gallery, you don't use a gallery for anything else, so it's a wasted space.
Right.
And it's not commercially viable to have a space which is just used for
Just
art.
there, yeah.
So I said, why don't I get inspired by a church where the art is on the ceiling and the prayer is at the bottom.
Right.
So we put art on the ceiling in an unconventional method that you see, which is kind of slightly diagonal, and the lower portion is a theatre. It's like a black box. So then it serves both purposes, and I think it works well. So this is the first mobile art gallery, or not necessarily art, it can be used as a nightclub, we use it as a nightclub also. It's a multifunctional space. And
Mobile as in?
meaning you can actually remove the whole thing.
Yeah, you can.
Because there is no foundation, it's anchored.
Right, yeah.
So therefore it is possible to remove it. Let's say I want to move it to some other place after
You
some
can
time.
place it.
I can take the whole place away instead of demolishing it.
Right, agree.
And it goes into that container outside.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on how Ahmedabad's culture has evolved over the years, and how do you expect it to evolve in the future?
Ahmedabad is a very interesting metropolis for the fact that it is small enough, but it's also very large. And it has a whole lot of skills available quite easily. So for a design person, I would call myself a creative director, it offers great opportunity to do things and not at a ridiculous cost. So, and the way in terms of design, Ahmedabad is at the forefront in terms of urban design. I think it's one of the better design cities in India. And it has the School of Architecture, it has the National Institute of Design, it has all these design places. So there is availability of talent also, CEPT also. So from that point, I think Ahmedabad will be futuristic, though I don't necessarily like the way Ahmedabad is being developed. And the ideas of trying to make it like Singapore or Shanghai, etc., I don't resonate with those at all. One can carve a niche for oneself in the areas that you do believe in, which is more intimate spaces, not scale, but intimate. Everything now is about scale. And I feel that it should be about human scale rather than mass scale. When you looked at Gift City and all, it's all huge multi-stories in Ahmedabad.
Very commercial and...
Commercial I have nothing against, but just the scale is inhuman. And I
Agreed.
think it takes away from connecting with nature. Everything is about exclusion. If you see, all so-called development involves destroying nature. If there is nature, a developer will come and first cut down the nature and build a building, and he is called a developer.
Agreed.
So there is something wrong with that, So I consider architecture, and my interest is in I've created this startup which does pre-engineered buildings, where when we design a building, we include nature.
Ecosystem, it should
So
be...
it would be not a landscape but an ecosystem. So the building would occupy a space where we'd create an ecosystem where on the building also nature would take over.
Yeah.
And somehow the building would become invisible at some point. The idea is not to highlight the building, the idea is to create a living space which is shared rather than not keeping everything out. All our buildings are keeping nature out and creating a sub-ecosystem within the building. Glass buildings, air-conditioned, weather-controlled. Here you can open the windows and let the nature in.
Wow,
I like that
that's a lovely
idea.
thought.
And that is how young children should grow up, to become sensitive to environment rather than saying that everything is for us. In the future, I don't think the rest of Ahmedabad will necessarily follow this path, but we are trying at the policy level to create policy whereby government helps green spaces by giving them incentive.
Very
So that
important.
farmers can keep their farms and yet get some money rather than having to sell the farm to get money.
Okay.
So this is not, it's not too complicated. It's through a concept called TDR, Transfer of Development Rights. So we put in proposals and talking to groups of people who say, why don't you give TDR to people who have green spaces, who are custodians of green spaces, rather than obliging them to sell. Then without selling, they can sell the TDR, get the money and keep the space. This concept is not new. It's happening in heritage, conservation of heritage and other places, but for green spaces also. We are trying to propose that. So I think that part of Ahmedabad, if it catches, and if there is a community which builds, which says, no, we want green spaces, we want small neighborhoods, we want smaller roads, we don't want large roads, we don't want the car culture, we want pedestrian culture. This sounds European. For a city of this size, it is possible. But it's a question of infrastructure, policy. I think the government's intent is there, but action is all about profit because it is driven by private enterprise.
True.
But I think there is a small niche for people with alternative ideas like the ones I have. I consider them alternative because it doesn't seem to be mainstream.
Yeah. So we come to some lighter questions now. If you could go back in time and live in any chosen years or era of your own family history, what years would that be and why?
What I would prefer to do is get both of my extremely enterprising great-grandfathers from back of time rather than my going there. Because I like the time we are in, but I would like people like them.
Bring them back.
Bring them to with me and being my mentors. Like my great-grandfather from my father's side was Mangaldas Girdas, from my grandmother's side was Malal Sarabhai. Now those were two big figures in every way in terms of people I look up to. And what they did and what they managed to do in those times, we are talking about 1900s. I would love that if I had their mentorship in whatever I'm doing today, what I would do. I lack a mentor.
But I'm sure you are a mentor to many.
I hope so at some point.
As someone who's experienced success in various fields, what legacy do you hope to leave behind through your cultural contributions and philanthropic endeavors?
So in terms of legacy, I have the great opportunity of managing an educational foundation and being involved with design. So from education, it's a huge privilege to be able to create an environment and pedagogy for children where education is about values. Everything else today they can learn. So I would like to have a legacy where there is an educational pedagogy very well documented which teaches children the value system where they can choose between right and wrong and make that decision. Because today it's all about choosing. Everybody has a choice. There's so many choices. It's that filter which you get during education which helps you decide the choice to make. And that is one legacy. The other one is in design. Today design is all about aesthetic and superficial. I find that totally banal. I think design should be about solving problems which are important problems. So environment is an important problem. How does design impact? What kind of design can I leave behind? What kind of buildings can I make? What kind of legacy can I leave in terms of physical form which is a solution to the problem of environment, which I just spoke about.
Right.
So that's the kind of legacy which is, both are intangible legacies, but they are about ideas. I think idea legacies are much stronger than physical legacies.
Okay. What are some of your most loved art forms from India or abroad?
What is the difference between art and craft? Art is an individual expression. Craft is a collective tradition which becomes an expression, because craft is always collective. It's about tradition. I like art form where it crosses over with craft. So where craft and art meet, that's the kind of work that I like. To give you an example, even more what I like is when art, craft and design come together.
Okay.
That is the ultimate in terms of what I enjoy. And I think Baki is an attempt for design. It's a sculpture, it's not a building, you know.
Okay.
So you can call it an architectural artwork. You can call it craft because it's technical craft and craft of the mind.
So it's an amalgamation of
And-
arts, crafts and design.
And design,
Yeah.
this place. But similarly, I really enjoy textiles. So the attempt made by Martan Singh in Vishwakarma exhibition, where he got traditional craftsmen to work with designers who were given the freedom to create a garment which was contemporary using traditional form, but in the process they became works of art. If you see the Vishwakarma exhibition, the exhibits there. So I think I really enjoy that meeting
Amalgamation
of the
of,
three.
yes. Now we move to some fun questions. If you were to commission a self-portrait from any artist of your choice, dead or alive, who would that be and why?
I think I would opt for Salvador Dali
Okay.
because I am kind of intrigued about the surreal side of me, because I sometimes look at myself and look at it in a surreal, I find it that who is this surreal person? You know? So I would like to see a visual of that.
Okay. And if there were a biopic made on you, who do you think would be likely to play your role?
Obviously somebody who has everything that I don't, because it's an aspiration. Somebody, who should I say? Among the Indian actors, Ranveer Singh.
Oh,
Why? Because he's a funky guy.
but you are not.
I'm not a funky guy.
Yeah.
But I would like to be portrayed
okay,
as
so
one.
you, okay.
I wish I was.
Okay.
If somebody's making a biopic, what's the point of making a boring one?
No, but it has to be what you
It
are,
has to be
right?
genuine.
It has to be closer to your character. It has to be genuine.
Then
okay?
it would have to be AI. I would just use AI to create myself. I would create an avatar of myself and it would play the biopic.
Okay.
Now with the Sora, open AI, no? So what is it called? The chat GPT guys have come up with a video AI where you can put in the text and you can have an entire person play the version of yourself. So I don't need to go to an actor. I'm just saying that it will be the most realistic.
Yeah.
Because it would be an avatar of me.
Yeah. So
It's
again,
possible now.
technology here.
Technology, absolutely.
Yeah. Name your favorite book or a movie on art or culture.
Favorite book
Or a movie.
was Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged.
Okay.
Atlas Shrugged because it's about individualism and which about how government's role should be limited to protecting individual rights and not trying to be the big brother,
Okay.
where society would thrive because individuals thrive rather than the collective thriving. If individuals thrive, the collective will thrive. That was the assumption of this book. And I do feel that individualism is something I'm attracted to rather than collectivism. And therefore I enjoyed that book where this whole group of individuals, they start disappearing from society and they actually are creating this idealistic place where each one is highly talented, individualistic, and they are sick of being in a place where everybody is trying to be like everybody else or the government is deciding and everything is decided by popular opinion and popular taste and popular this and popular that. Everything is about what is popular. Here it is about what you wish to do as an individual.
Okay.
And so most of the things I do are not, they are very individualistic. They may or may not be popular. So I like that book.
Okay. Great. Name an artist whose music you resonate with and why.
I like Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan.
Oh, so it's mutual then. Even I love him. I
Yeah.
adore his music.
I love him, I enjoy him, but the sheer energy in his voice
Yeah.
and the kind of, his lyrics are all about love and longing and
Yeah.
kind of, all three together are a potent combination.
Yeah, yeah. It touches your soul. The music
Yeah.
is such.
So I like Nusrat Fateh.
Great. If you were to collaborate with a fictional character from a book or a movie on a cultural project, who would you choose and why?
So again, there was an architect character called Howard Roark in
Okay.
The Fountainhead,
Okay.
again by Ayn Rand. And that architect was extremely individualistic
Okay.
and he didn't create buildings like everybody wanted in the market, like everybody makes glass buildings just now, just because that's what sells. He made buildings which he was convinced about. So he was an extremely individualistic person and extremely creative. And the character is so beautifully described in this book that I would love to have an architect like that to collaborate with for the work that I'm doing to build spaces.
How lovely. So thank you, Abhay, for your time. We would like you to sign this for us.
Okay.
Thank you. See you all soon.